Hey, it's Saylor, and this is episode 90 of the Orange Pill Investor. It's kind of freaking me out. I can't believe I have 90 videos already in 2024. My goal is 350. And today I want to talk about food because I'm on day 2 of my 5-day fast. But it's actually not that bad. We'll see how it goes on day 4 and 5. I've never done over a 3.5 day fast, but what I really want to do is just keep banging the drum on a couple of things: selling covered calls and then reinvesting the profits. This basically creates a compound interest scenario. And usually, what does your bank maybe compound your little 1% interest or whatever once a month or once a quarter? Maybe, I don't know, the annual compound. I don't know how the banks even do it. I know I get like 13 cents or something, so I really don't care. But what I'm talking about is compounding interest every Friday. Covered covered calls, well, all the options expire every Friday if they offer weeklies. And so I'm talking about compounding interest 52 times a year. And even without compounding it, even without reinvesting the profits, if you get 1% a week, that's 52% for the year. So if you got $1,000 account, that's an extra $500 a year, which is half of the entire account, which is, I think that's pretty sick. If you got a $10,000 account, it's $500, $5,000 a year. If you got a $100,000 account, $50,000 a year. So you can see where this is going. And it's mind-boggling to me how just learning how to set up a covered call against shares is either too scary, too hard. I don't know. I mean, I'll show the quick version. It literally takes 2 minutes. I did a video about it on how you can just get started selling covered calls in 2 minutes. And there's a lot of new jargon, but really the steps are very simple. And really the way this works, I have a whole ass chart, but obviously if you get 1% a week, that's 52% for the year. But if you reinvest the profits and you earn 1% on top of 1%, it actually goes up to 67% a year. And because the formula for compound interest, if you 1.01, if we figure out the compound interest, we raise that to the 52nd exponent because we're going to do that every Friday. It's actually 67%, not 52%. So your account really just starts to snowball. And I call it reaching critical mass because if you're getting 1%, then you basically need 10,000 shares of that stock in order to get enough premium at 1% in order to buy another 100 shares of that stock. And now instead of selling 100 covered calls, you're selling 101 covered calls. And then next week you're selling 102 covered calls. And then the week after that you're selling 104 covered calls. And it doesn't even have to be, you can trade multiple stocks, but as long as you, like the cheapest stock that I trade right now is HUT. I think it's under $10. So in order to buy 100 shares of it, you're going to need $1,000. So once you get to the point where you're getting $1,000 of premium every week, you could be selling covered calls against Tesla. You could be selling covered calls against my favorite, which is MicroStrategy, which is extremely dangerous to trade covered calls against right now. But it's my strategy, and I've had success with it for the last several years. And I haven't found a better way that's easier or that's this easy. I can literally just roll my covered calls every Friday for like 30 minutes to an hour and be done. And so I guess maybe it pays so well because it's scary, or people are just, I think maybe most people would just rather go long and hope that they hit the next lottery ticket. They want to hit the next Tesla before it blows up, or they want to hit whatever before it blows up. But I think, what was it, Michael Saylor said something, if most of the gains on any stock is on 3 different trading days. So if you are not long that stock on those 3 days, it's like 90% of the gains. Well, I take the opposite approach. I limit my upside 52 weeks a year, and I sacrifice unlimited upside on those 3 good days. So I make gains 49 weeks a year, and I sacrifice 3 weeks a year where I don't make those huge gains. So it works for me. And do your own research, not financial advice, all that good stuff. But this is why I do it, and this is the chart. And it really doesn't necessarily matter which stock you pick, as long as you don't pick an absolute loser. So you don't have to pick the best perfect stock. It doesn't have to go to the moon, because selling covered calls, it's not going to do you any good if it goes to the moon anyway. So the main thing is just to not pick a loser. So, don't get excited about GameStop when it's doing its short squeeze. I mean, if you know how to get in the short squeeze and get out, you can do that, but that's not what this is. You can't just pick a company that's going to shit and think, okay, well, I'll just sell covered calls on that forever. If your chart, if you zoom out the chart and it's not a company that you want to hold, if they're talking about bankruptcy, you're going to be able to get a lot of premium in a dangerous stock that could be going bankrupt, but that doesn't make any sense. There's too many good stock tickers out there that offer good premium. I prefer, on my small accounts, I've been doing a lot of the mining stocks. On my main account, I'm all in on MicroStrategy and Tesla, but on my smaller accounts, I've got contracts for Mara, CLSK, RIOT, and HUT. And there's excellent premium to be gotten there with a lot of call away value. And so if you start out with 100 shares of stock, and this is not putting any more of your own money in, 100 shares of stock, you get 1% premium that week. You purchase 1 more share. It's going to take you 100 weeks of buying 1 share a week to get to 200 shares. Now, that sounds like a long-ass time, but remember that we're talking about not adding any of our own extra money in. So you're working your 9 to 5. You're not DCAing into this. You don't have to drip into it. None of that stuff. I mean, you can, because this will accelerate, of course, if you do. But just reinvesting your own profits, in 100 weeks, you'll have 200 shares. Now, your rate of increase in shares has doubled, because now you're selling 2 covered calls at 1%, and you're buying 2 shares a week. It takes half the time now to get to another 100 shares. It takes you 50 weeks. Now you have 300 shares. Now you're buying 3 shares a week. Now it only takes a third of the original time to get to the next 100 shares. Now you have 400. You're buying 4 shares a week. It only takes 25 weeks to get to the next 100 shares. And this is kind of like the bear case scenario, where you're only collecting 1% return a week. I mean, some of these, MicroStrategy and some of these mining stocks, I'm getting 3% easy, and I'm still allowing for a ton of call away value. I try not to get too much greedier than that, because I like to also benefit from some upside. Like when people say, oh, I don't want to limit my upside. I mean, selling covered calls, you can decide how much upside you want to limit. You can still allow for, however much call away value you want, 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 10%, whatever it is, you can do that. But, base case, guaranteed income, it would take, eventually, you're buying 50 shares a week and 60 shares a week. 85, and then now once you get to 10,000 shares, now you're buying 100 shares a week. This is critical mass. Once you get to the point where you can start buying an extra 100 shares, which gives you the opportunity to sell an extra covered call every week. So instead of selling 100 covered calls, the next week you're selling 101, then the next week 102, next week 103, next week 104. And that's when you go from the 52%, which, I mean, for this, it's going to take 11 years, but 11 years of making 50% returns is still insane to me. But at this point, your 52% returns turns into 67% returns. But let's just say you never reach critical mass. It's like, oh, it's going to take me too long to get to 10,000 shares. Okay, for this 11 years, if you're getting 1.52, that's 52% interest a year, and we're going to compound that 11 times, that's going to 100x your money in 11 years. I think that's a little bit better than the S&P. I mean, even if you don't use this formula, if you're not reinvesting all of your profits, so 50% a year, 52 times 11 years. You know, 5x your money. Should be a decimal place there. So this is what I do, and that's not even accounting for any increase in value. That's just the premium. You could 5x the value of your account selling covered calls, even if the stock trades sideways. If you're selling this stock and it's $10 a share now, and it's $10 a share, I mean, that would be some pretty bad luck if you're still selling, if your stock hasn't gone up in 11 years, and you can, by selling covered calls, you can still 5x, almost 6x your money. I don't understand. What's funny, I don't understand is not an argument. I've been noticing that lately. Somebody was criticizing. They're saying when somebody says, "Oh, I don't understand this," why people think a certain way. That's not really a burn on them. It's kind of a burn on you. It's like, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not correct. But in this case, I've heard the arguments, and I don't understand how the when they try to own you and they say, "Oh, you're picking up pennies in front of a steamroller." I don't understand how that makes any sense whatsoever. Are these people literally saying that their buy and hold strategy is going up 50% a year, 67% a year? They're 100xing in 11 years? I don't frickin' think so. Most people suck at picking stocks. Even the experts suck at picking stocks. I think they did some research one time that showed even the analysts don't do better than a coin flip. So you could literally just flip a coin and do better than the analysts. And so this is kind of the bear case here with getting 52% interest until you go to critical mass in 11 years. But if you can go, this is bull case. So if you can find some stocks that you can get 5% a week on, it's only going to take you 20 weeks to get to 200 shares. Then it only takes 10 weeks to get 100, and then it only takes 7, and then it only takes 5. You can reach critical mass. If you're getting 5%, you can get critical mass when you get to 2,000 shares. And that's only going to take like 80 weeks. So in a year and a half, you'd reach critical mass. Now, this is just kind of pie in the sky type stuff. This is just kind of like a fantasy of like, man, if all the stars aligned and I could just get in and out perfectly. But as you can see, like, let's just check HUT. So I sold the $10 strike for 26 bucks, and I'll do it again next week, and the next week, and the next week, and the next week. And in this account, in this account, I've actually, in both of my accounts actually, I've started, instead of buying extra shares, I'm saving my money in MicroStrategy because I don't think there's a bigger opportunity. So once my MicroStrategy is worth couple hundred shares of something, then I will cash in the MicroStrategy after it has appreciated. Like when MicroStrategy pumps, it's going to pump harder than most of these other stocks. That's when I will kind of use it almost like a pairs trade. But I guess options are complicated, but I mean, you just literally just go in here, you go to the next, I sell weekly, so you can go to the next expiration date. There's some tasty trade research that says going to 45 days is optimal, but I don't bother. I like the premium that I can get per week. This is only 3 days of premium, so you're probably going to at least double anything that you're seeing here. But if you wanted to be super greedy, you can get 15 bucks with only 38 cents of callaway value. That's about 4%. 4 times 9 is 36. But a little less greedy on the premium and allowing for more callaway value if you went to the 9.5. That's allowing for almost $1 of callaway value and almost 1% for half a week. So, well, it's Tuesday. I guess it's only 2 trading days missing. But some of the other ones, but yeah, that was the point. So there's a little bit of friction getting in and out of these. So the bid-ask spread. So you're probably going to lose $1. Like, let me just go out another week so that the numbers are a little easier to work with. Well, let's say you go to the 10 strike for next week. There's 324 people trying to buy this from you at 23. There's one person trying to sell it for 25. So you might get lucky and get the mark price right in the middle, but you might not be able to get 25 or 24. You might have to come down to 23. So there's, you might lose $1 or $2 getting into the trade, and then on Friday when you want to roll this to the next Friday, you might have to buy it back for $1. So that's why these are theoretical numbers, because you're going to pay a little bit to get in, and you pay a little bit to get out. So there's always a little bit of friction built into the system. The market makers, or whoever the hell they are, got to take their cut. So, but it's literally just that simple. You buy 100 shares, boom. Anything above at the money is in play. It just matters how much premium do you want to get. I mean, some people hate when the price goes above their strikes because then they have to pay to roll it over. Okay, so if HUT goes up 20%, it goes up $2 to 10.50, $11. You can still get 1% for a week and a half at the 11.5 strike. That's almost $3. That's like 25-30% callaway value. But the point is just to keep collecting premium, keep reinvesting it, buying more shares. Sell the covered call, buy more shares. Sell the covered call, buy more shares. So I think I've repeated myself enough for one day. I'll leave it there. All right, be good, y'all.